The path of mastery is a critical philosophy that you really need to know if you want to master something. For me, it's a true game changer because it helps me in my personal growth and my path to self-discovery. My decision to study business psychology at 25 with a full-time job 40 to 50 hours a week is mainly due to the path of mastery. Sitting down at a desk or in university regularly after 8 to 10 hours work a day requires a lot of focus, especially when dealing with complex concepts or mathematical problems that require time. I would have disappeared in a dark hole with stomach cramps and burnout if I hadn't internalized the simple concept. But before we have a look on the path of mastery, we need a clear picture of the components of this concept. Why you don't learn or learn for the wrong reasons. High marks by themselves don't tell us much. So where do marks even come from? What kind of learner are you? And last but not least, the path of mastery itself. Over the past few years I have repeatedly met people that told me they have just not the intelligence to accomplish their dreams in life. They couldn't go to university because they thought they were too old. Their attempts to learn failed within a short time because they couldn't really concentrate. Believe it or not, one of them told me that he don't want to learn anything new because it could erase his other memories. Other students I've met in the university and around only study for the grades. Some of them try to achieve the best results with a minimum amount of work. And some of them develop anxiety because they focus only on good grades, then focus on actual learning. They only have a positive self-image if they accomplish the best results. This can lead to very toxic thoughts and also to depression. If you really believe that your value as a human being depends on how well you accomplish, you're headed for trouble. For example, Alex Cheng, a former Harvard student, gave an important speech on TED about this topic. In his speech, he addressed the downside of hunting for good grades. He also lays out that every second student in Harvard faces symptoms of depression and anxiety.
It is believed that more than half of Harvard students encounter certain symptoms of depression during their 4 years at Harvard.
He explained that he suffered from the immense pressure he put on himself trying to accomplish these high grades. At the same time, he repeatedly talked about that he didn't want to disappoint his parents and the institution of Harvard.
Would I be an embarrassment to my parents? Would I be an embarrassment to Harvard? And then I thought about what's the purpose of being around them. If I am an embarrassment, maybe I should just run away and disappear forever.
The story becomes even darker and I highly recommend you to watch his speech. Maybe you will find yourself there too. Consider for a moment the history of grades. They haven't always been a part of formal schooling. About 200 years ago, society asked educators how much students have learned. Somebody somewhere, probably in the late 1700s in Oxford or Cambridge, come up with an idea of a concept to give students, or the best students, an A, the second best an B, and so forth. It was just a system of shorthand that was supposed to describe how well people think. Through most of the 1800s, schools in England and the USA used only 2 grades. You either got a credit for a specific course or you didn't. But by the late 1800s, schools adopted a system from A to F, from 1 to 10 or other scales. In the 20th century, they added pluses and minuses. So what did all these letters and pluses and minuses tell you? Quite often, not much. As an adult, nobody cares about your grades. Grades become irrelevant. And with a good reason. It's pretty challenging to get into someone's head and find out how well he or she understands a concept or something he learned 10 years ago. As a result, grades have been a loosey predictor of success or failure. For example, Martin Luther King Jr. received a C in public speaking. Grades are important, but someone who concentrates just on straight A's will probably never become a deep learner. Anyone who focuses on deep learning, however, can grade high marks. But what does deep learning mean, and are you a deep learner? A study by the Gothenburg University identified 3 types of learning. In the original study of the FOM University, they gave students an article and asked them to read it. Some of these students read it faster than the others, but the reading speed mattered far less than another factor that emerged. As the researchers interviewed every student, they heard something like, "I wanted to remember as much as I can from the text." These surface learners, as the psychologists called them, looked for facts, words, keywords and questions they might getting asked. However, it became clear that surface learners only focuses on getting through the exam. They have no intention to use anything of what they learned. Strategic learners primarily intend to focus on highest marks, best grades, often for the sake of professional or graduate school. These people will usually shine in the classroom and will make their parents proud of their high marks. In many ways they look like deep learners, but their fundamental concern is different. They focus almost exclusively on what the professor wants and how to ace the exam. If they learn something along the way, what changes their mind, how they act or how they think, it's quite an accident. They never set out to do that. They simply want the recognition that comes with graduating with honors. Later in life, these strategic learners become, at best, routine experts. They are learning all the procedures of their work and they don't invent anything. When problems of life don't follow the norm, they have very big issues to handle them. They have difficulty to handle new things and rarely become path breakers. So people who invent new ways of thinking or doing. Instead, when confronted with different kinds of problems, they retreat in frustration. They can become bored from school or work and suffer from bouts of anxiety or even depression. They often don't enjoy taking on new problems. And most important, they don't learn much. Meanwhile, other students expressed many other purposes. They want to understand the meaning behind the text, the implications, the applications, the way the author thought about this idea, and they want to compare it to other ideas of other authors. They want to accomplish a level that goes way deeper than the flat surface learner and strategic learners want to accomplish. These students try to comprehend what they've read. They want to bring it in a line of the concepts they already learned. They want to relate it to them. In short, these deep learners approach the problem with the enthusiasm of a 5-year-old on a treasure hunt, with the added skills of analysis, synthesizing, evaluation and theorizing. I will take a simple example to explain the path of mastery: cooking. Let's say you have lost a bet and you have to cook a 3-course meal for your friends. Because betting debts are debts of honor, you want to bring in some energy. You've probably watched a few episodes of Hell's Kitchen and you think you know what's all about. You have to show what you've got in a month, so you decide to cook every second day the menu. You go on the internet and look at recipes and go for first menu coleslaw a la KFC. Second is the main course, a T-bone steak, and the third one is a dessert. You want to bring in some chocolate, so you decide on the hot lava choco cake. Each of these dishes varies in the difficulty. First and foremost is the T-bone steak. It's very difficult because it has 3 kinds of meat and 3 kinds of cooking points. You watch videos that prepare you to cook these dishes in perfection and you want to cook it like them. Then you enjoy bad results. So you're faced with a negative first experience. The consequence, instead of looking for the problem, you look for a more straightforward dish. At least that's what a strategic learner or a surface learner would do. They are looking for something they can do with their existing skills, or they would interpret their goal in another way and try to accomplish that. By example, the surface learner would maybe buy the choco lava cake in a supermarket. Would just put it in the oven. Or in case of the T-bone steak, he would rather buy a more common rump steak. Because you didn't told your friends like a strategic learner wouldn't do it. Because nobody assumes that you want to cook a T-bone steak. Because you're a strategic learner, you just calculated that maybe T-bone steak would be too difficult. You will go with a much easier steak like the rump steak too. But maybe you made a mistake and you told them, so the strategic learner want to master it. You try it every single day. So as a strategic learner, you concentrate at least to get to a certain level. You won't be able to cook it to perfection, but it's really good at the end. So you as a deep learner just have the same problem like the strategic and surface learner. But you want to insist on the problem. You want to understand. You know that the T-bone steak is just a complex concept made of some smaller, much easier concepts. Much easier concepts like choosing the right meat at the time of purchase, salt properly, seasoning, which oil or butter or what do you need in the pan, which pan do you need. All these smaller concepts require some skill. Instead of cooking the T-bone steak every other day, you as a deep learner, you concentrate on different perspectives of the dish. So you take the smaller concepts and try them out with other dishes. In this way, you generate quick wins that confirms your learning progress. By the deadline, you as a deep learner cannot only cook 3 dishes. You internalized many different concepts that applies to many different dishes. Overall, you as a deep learner, you learned exponentially more than the strategic and surface learner. The best students learned that nothing is easy. Growth requires hard work. Our world is a complex place. We all become creatures of habit in the way we think and act. To learn is to strip away those deeply ingrained habits of the mind. To do so requires pushing ourselves back and forth, to build and rebuild things, to fail and to accomplish. To take the deep approach means to take control of your own education. You want to find the meaning for your own life. You know there's a connection in between all the information and the things you already know. And you know that everything leads to your personal development. An innovative work of the mind, which changes and forms our world, needs a steady and slowly progress. It just requires time and devotion. You can't tell what you can do until you struggled over and over with the same problem. People who become highly creative, productive, learning to acknowledge their failures, even embrace them and explore and learn from them. Thank you so much for watching. Do hit the subscribe button if you aren't already. I will see you in the next video.